One of the most life-changing and profound aspects of this practice for me is the liberating perspective that we begin to embody on a daily basis. And it is liberating because it brings us freedom from thought. We begin to actually master our headspace rather than being unconsciously enslaved by it. And we begin to master it because we realize that we are not our thoughts, and we are aware of what thoughts come in, and we cultivate this ability to drop the thoughts because we realize we don't have to believe the inner narrative. We don't have to believe what the thoughts are saying. And we show them no interest. If we don't want to show them interest, then they stop because they are not energized anymore. They cannot continue to live. We take their energy away through taking the interest away. However, some thoughts hold more power over us than other thoughts, shall I say. Some thoughts can be convincing. And the reason that these thoughts are convincing is what I will go into in this video. But also, it's because we believe them. We actually believe them. A part of us believes them. So some thoughts are more convincing than others, and yes, they hold this power to grab our attention and pull us under into unconscious identification with them. They can make us feel so trapped in this physical world, like we're in a box and we're unable to see the bigger picture. And they run riot, these thoughts, they run riot in our head, going round and round, creating emotional outbursts within us. It can feel like the mind is attacking us. And yes, they are so heavily charged with energy, these thoughts. They can cause neurosis. And where I see people go wrong with this is that they think, okay, well, I'm having this thought right now, but this thought is so powerful and I cannot drop it, so I cannot practice my practice at this point. I'm gonna have to put witness consciousness to the side and just see this out and just unconsciously move through this. But no, that's the mistake people make, because really this situation, this thought has come into our reality as a gift. This is where our mastery can really come into play, and this is why we practice our practice for times like this. So when we have this thought that is emotionally charged, that is when we want to become alert, and that is when we think, right, okay, this is it. This is where I'm going to really practice my practice. I want to take you through my personal way of navigating through these convincing types of thoughts. And firstly, I do think that it's important to accept when they arise, because if you've got resistance, then you're just feeding that thought more, essentially. You're enabling it to survive. And so instead of being all like, oh, I can't drop it, it's really, really difficult to drop, my mastery's not working, I'm really bad at this, I'm failing, that's just another narrative that's going to come in. So we want to accept it. We want to be like, okay, this thought is really pulling me under, it's really convincing. Okay. So we watch ourselves go through the experience. Now, often the thoughts that are convincing, they are convincing and difficult to let go of because they are infused with past pain and past trauma. That's why they create this neurosis in a way. They have a history of pain behind them. Perhaps this trauma is obvious to us, perhaps it is not. Yet, shining the light of awareness on the thoughts, that in and of itself will bring a lot of clarity and help us to navigate the situation with a lot more awareness. If we think, okay, I'm having this thought because of something that happened to me so many years ago, we want to bring the unconscious to our conscious awareness, essentially. For instance, if we've been cheated on in the past, perhaps we have a narrative in our subsequent relationship that is saying all sorts of things like he's cheating or she's cheating on me again. And perhaps in matters of health, we had a horrible diagnosis in the past, and then we have a headache, and then we have a narrative that arises that says something along the lines of it's a brain tumor. So there's lots of different instances. Obviously, that's just two examples, quite extreme examples, really, of convincing narratives that are only there because of past pain. Now, the reason that we struggle so much here is because our ego, it comes in, the egoic mind comes in and it tries to protect us. It perceives a threat. And of course it perceives a threat because this has happened before. It's sparking all of these patterns from the past. It's haunting us. And the ego is trying its best to really protect us from that threat, but what it doesn't realize is that it's being irrational and it's being overprotective. It's trying to take a front seat in this car ride, but we really need to get it to the back. So already when we have that thought, we wake up, we remember the bigger picture as best we can. We accept that it's happening, we watch it as much as we can, and we remember the bigger picture, which is that I am essentially being haunted by my past and my ego is protecting me. And we have to remember that this is this thought is based on a concept of an imaginary future. No matter how convincing it is, it's based on an imaginary future because of a past event. And people that have not had that past event, that emotionally charged past event, may not have that thought. That thought may not arise, and if it did in them, then they could probably drop it. For instance, I've never had a bad diagnosis, so if I have something bad, I don't know, if I just feel ill and I Google my symptoms, I don't have a stampeding riot of thoughts go through my mind that says something like worst case scenario. However, for someone else, that might happen. So we need to just remember that as well. That is the bigger picture. So the other day I did have a thought that I am very familiar with, and it does hold a bit of power over me still. I've managed to decrease its power over time, and I'll show you how. But yes, this thought came in and it's very familiar to me, and the emotional response that the thought created is very, very familiar to me. I've been here quite a few times, and something in the outside world triggered it. I saw it arise, and suddenly this big box, metaphorically, comes over me. It just envelops me, and it's like opaque. I can kind of see the bigger picture on the outside world, but it's more difficult to see. So I know that I've got to become alert, and I've got to try and make this box that I'm in a little bit more transparent, because you see, the thought, this convincing narrative, when it arises, it feels so real at the time. Hence the clouded vision, hence the opaque box that we are put in. So what I do when this thought arises is I become alert. I don't think, right, let's forget the practice. I think, right, now let's use the practice, and I remember it. I remember this tool that I have, this practice that I have to really actually embody what I am beyond this thought. So I draw on my mastery, and I see the situation objectively through, first of all, deep breathing. So when you've got these thoughts that are so seductive that then are a vibrational match to another thought, and suddenly your mind is attacking you, going round and round and round, worst case scenario, catastrophizing, we come back to the breath. Through breathing into it, we are detaching from the thoughts themselves. We're not focusing on the thoughts, we're not feeding the thoughts because we're too busy focusing on the breath. And we're alleviating the unpleasant sensation that the thoughts are creating through, one, not feeding them with more thoughts, and through, two, actually breathing into that emotion, letting it move through us, feeling it. So that in and of itself, it grounds us, and it brings some kind of level of presence into the situation. And within that presence is what you are beyond that narrative that is trying so hard to pull you under. So then what I do is I grab a piece of paper and I start writing. I write down things like, I am not a victim of my thoughts. I write down things like, my egoic mind is trying to protect me because it perceives a threat because of something that happened when I was younger. I write down things like, I am the master of my thoughts. And this really enables me to see the bigger picture. It enables me to create that sense of detachment and kind of, in a way, burst out of this prison box that this thought puts me in. It really enables me to actually watch myself go through what I'm going through. And in doing so, I'm not feeding the thoughts. I'm actually kind of counteracting the thoughts in a way with logic. Sometimes I even write down the actual likelihood of this outcome, which is always really low. That enables me to really see how much this intrusive thought is actually trying to convince me of a false narrative, of a false outcome. So importantly, I'm watching myself go through this situation from as much awareness as possible, and I'm actually able to maintain presence through these activities. You know, there is a certain level of presence that comes through journaling for me, and obviously the same with breathing. What we're doing is we're not feeding that thought with other thoughts. I mean, this thought is very seductive by nature. It's got a very, very low vibrational frequency that's going to be a match to more and more and more and more and more, creating such a momentum. So what we're doing is we're cutting that momentum, and we're using tools to actually ground ourselves and to bring us back into reality before we get so completely enveloped in this thought and really lose ourselves in it and crumble. So yeah, what we're doing is we're using these tools to come back and center ourselves and really, really see the bigger picture. What I've found is actually that over time, the more I practice this, the more that particular thought loses momentum, and the better I get at actually consciously moving through it. Obviously, this thought is going to lose momentum over time because we're not feeding it. We're not enabling it to survive. Really take the energy away from that narrative, and it begins to lose its power, and it begins to dissolve over time. That's what I've seen anyway. You kind of rise above it. And yeah, of course, there is a certain level of healing that may be involved in that, especially, you know, if this thought has plagued you for a while. I would definitely recommend sitting down in meditation and asking yourself a few things about it, the origin of it, seeing what thoughts arise, what visions you might have, and really working through any energy in motion, any emotion that actually arises during that meditation. You know, we're all kind of intuitively led on this journey of healing. Haven't really spoken about that much on this channel, but I will do in the future. So yes, thank you so much for watching this video. Just remember, if you are suffering from these kind of intrusive thoughts, that this practice, it will bring you so much freedom away from them. Just keep going, and I know it can be unpleasant and painful, but you can rise above it, and you will. Just give it time. So yes, as I say, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of stuff, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye 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 bye.